The second flight of Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket just made history. For the first time ever, Jeff Bezos' company successfully landed an orbital booster. Engineers cheered. The media celebrated. Blue Origin had finally arrived. But here's what nobody's talking about. While Blue Origin spent an entire year preparing for this single landing, SpaceX quietly landed over 300 Falcon 9 boosters. While Jeff Bezos was perfecting one flight, Elon Musk was building an entirely different game. This isn't just about landing rockets anymore. It's about what happens when two fundamentally opposite strategies collide in the most unforgiving arena in human history: space. Blue Origin just proved they can land a booster. SpaceX proved they can land them faster, cheaper, and more often than anyone thought possible. And that difference? It's about to reshape everything we thought we knew about the new space race. Welcome back to Space Update 24H, where we break down the stories that are actually moving the space industry forward. Today we're exposing why Blue Origin's biggest victory might have just become their worst nightmare. Let's dive right in. February 2025, Cape Canaveral. Blue Origin's New Glenn booster descends through the night sky, 7 engines burning bright against the darkness. The landing legs deploy, contact, success. For Jeff Bezos, this wasn't just a landing. This was validation after 25 years of waiting, after 2.5 decades of being called too slow, too careful, too late, after watching SpaceX launch hundreds of times while Blue Origin remained grounded. But here's where the story gets interesting. While Blue Origin's engineers were celebrating their first orbital booster recovery, SpaceX had already landed their 347th Falcon 9 booster that same month. Think about that number. 347 successful landings. Blue Origin just hit number 1. Pat Ramos, Blue Origin's VP of Space Systems, said something revealing before the second flight. "We fully intend to recover the New Glenn first stage on this next launch." Notice the word intend, not expect, not guarantee, intend. That's because Blue Origin's first attempt failed. 3 engines didn't reignite. The booster was lost. And suddenly the pressure was enormous. The U.S. Space Force was watching. NASA was waiting. Competitors were laughing. SpaceX needed 20 launches over 5 years to nail their first booster landing. Back in 2015, Blue Origin studied that playbook. They knew the odds. They prepared meticulously. And yes, they succeeded faster than SpaceX did in terms of attempts. But there's a critical difference that changes everything. SpaceX's philosophy: fail fast, learn fast, fly often. When a Falcon 9 booster is lost, another one is already waiting. During Starship development, they built boosters so quickly that explosions barely slowed the program down. Ship 24, Ship 25, Ship 26. The production line kept moving. Blue Origin's approach? Gradatim ferociter. Step by step, ferociously. Build fewer boosters, make each one count. Land them reliably, reuse them quickly. It sounds logical, it sounds efficient. But here's the problem. It only works if everything goes perfectly. Blue Origin hoped to refly their first recovered booster within 90 days. Instead, nearly a year passed. Engineers found 7 separate issues with propellant management and engine restart sequences. 7 problems that required months to solve because they only had flight data from one mission. Meanwhile, SpaceX was gathering data from multiple launches every single week. Here's something Blue Origin doesn't advertise. Their factory in Huntsville, Alabama, called GS1, can build New Glenn upper stages faster than first stages. They've got 8 upper stages sitting in storage right now, waiting for boosters that don't exist yet. Why? Because New Glenn's first stage is incredibly complex, more complex than Falcon 9, more expensive, harder to manufacture. Blue Origin designed it that way intentionally, betting everything on reusability. But when you only build a handful of boosters and one landing fails, your entire manifest grinds to a halt. Blue Origin planned 8 New Glenn flights in 2025. They'll finish the year with 2. That's not a schedule slip. That's a fundamental mismatch between ambition and execution. Then came the curveball nobody expected. NASA Administrator Sean Duffy announced in early 2025 that the agency would reopen competition for the Artemis 3 lunar lander contract. The reason? Starship development delays. The goal? Get Americans back on the moon during this presidential term. Blue Origin saw an opening. Their Blue Moon lander could finally compete head-to-head with SpaceX's Starship HLS. This was the shot they'd been waiting for. Elon Musk's response on X was brutal. Blue Origin has never delivered a useful payload to orbit, let alone the moon. Harsh? Absolutely, but also factually accurate at the time. Blue Origin's only orbital payload before March 2025 was NASA's twin Escapade spacecraft, a $55 million Mars mission where Blue Origin's launch contract was worth just $18 million. Compare that to SpaceX's resume. Crew Dragon missions to the ISS, Starlink mega constellation deployments, commercial satellite launches, NASA cargo resupply, national security payloads. The gap isn't measured in years, it's measured in capability. For years, insiders joked that Blue Origin was the world's biggest nonprofit funded by one person, and they weren't entirely wrong. Jeff Bezos poured billions into the company with no immediate return expected, no financial pressure, no existential deadline. That safety net brought stability, but it also killed urgency. Bob Smith, the previous CEO, ran Blue Origin like a traditional aerospace contractor, methodical, risk-averse, comfortable with delays. Competitors called it old space thinking, and the criticism stung because it was true. Then in December 2023, everything changed. Bezos brought in Dave Limp, an Amazon executive with zero aerospace experience, but a proven track record of shipping products on time. His mandate was simple: execute and execute fast. Limp cut the bureaucracy. He refocused the company on two priorities: engines and New Glenn. Everything else became secondary. The culture shift was immediate and painful. Longtime employees who were used to endless development cycles suddenly faced hard deadlines, and it's working. The successful second flight proves it. But speed is only half the battle. Blue Origin has set an audacious goal: reduce the cost of delivering cargo to orbit or the moon by 100 times CEO. Dave Limp compares it to how cars and consumer electronics became affordable through mass production. There's just one problem: you can't mass produce your way to 100 times cost reduction without full reusability, and New Glenn's upper stage is still expendable. Jeff Bezos has outlined two competing paths forward. Option 1, develop a fully reusable upper stage. Option 2, make the expendable upper stage so cheap that reusability doesn't matter. According to Bezos, this isn't a theoretical choice. Blue Origin will have to build and test both approaches. That means more time, more money, more uncertainty. SpaceX already solved this problem with Starship, a fully reusable system designed from day one to slash costs through rapid reuse. They're not choosing between two approaches. They've already committed to one, and they're flying it. Laura McGinnis, Blue Origin's VP of New Glenn Mission Management, said in September 2024 that the company had multiple boosters in assembly and 8 upper stages ready to fly. If true, Blue Origin could dramatically increase their launch rate in 2026. But could and will are very different words. SpaceX doesn't talk about potential launch rates. They just launch. Multiple Falcon 9 missions per week. Starship test flights every few months. The hardware moves from factory to pad to orbit to landing to refurbishment to launch again, all in a continuous cycle that Blue Origin is only now beginning to attempt. This is where the nightmare begins for Blue Origin. Their victory, landing that booster on Flight 2, just revealed how far behind they actually are. Not in capability. They've proven they can build rockets that work, but in velocity, in production rate, in operational tempo. The space industry doesn't reward companies that can do something once. It rewards companies that can do it repeatedly, reliably, and affordably. Blue Origin now faces a defining choice. Continue with gradatim ferociter, building carefully and slowly while perfecting each system, or adopt SpaceX's aggressive playbook. Build fast, fly often, iterate rapidly, accept failures as data. The second New Glenn flight proves Blue Origin can execute when everything aligns perfectly. Their next launch, scheduled for early 2026, will reuse the booster that just landed. If successful, it'll prove they can turn around hardware quickly. But one reused booster doesn't make a business model. It makes a proof of concept. SpaceX has reflown individual Falcon 9 boosters more than 20 times. They've turned booster reuse from an engineering challenge into an operational routine. Flight controllers barely blink when a booster lands anymore because it happens so often. That's the gap Blue Origin needs to close. Not landing boosters, they've done that, but landing them so reliably, so frequently, and so cheaply that it becomes boring. So here's what Blue Origin's victory actually reveals. They've finally entered a race that SpaceX has been dominating for nearly a decade. Landing one booster after 25 years isn't catching up, it's just getting started. The nightmare for Blue Origin isn't that they can't compete, it's that every day they spend perfecting one launch, SpaceX executes 20. Every month Blue Origin takes to refurbish a booster, SpaceX has already reflown 5. The math doesn't lie and time isn't slowing down. Jeff Bezos wanted to build the perfect rocket. Elon Musk wanted to build a rocket empire. And in space, execution beats perfection every single time. But here's the twist. Blue Origin might still surprise everyone. Dave Limp's leadership has already accelerated progress more in 18 months than the previous decade combined. If they can maintain this momentum, if they can actually fly New Glenn monthly instead of yearly, this story could look completely different by 2027. The real question isn't whether Blue Origin can land boosters. They've proven that. The question is whether they can transform from a trophy company into a ruthless competitor before SpaceX's lead becomes mathematically insurmountable. What do you think? Can Blue Origin close the gap, or is SpaceX too far ahead? Drop your predictions in the comments below. If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening in the new space race, smash that like button and share this video with anyone who still thinks landing one rocket makes you a SpaceX competitor. Subscribe to Space Update 24 Hours for the real stories behind the headlines. No hype, just facts and analysis that actually matter. Because in space, the race isn't won by who celebrates first. It's won by who never stops launching.